Hello there. So today I had a conversation with another accountant. I have a person who I'm doing their personal taxes, and their partner, they're married, so their partner or spouse has a different accountant doing their taxes. And so I thought I would just chat a little bit about this situation and how to navigate that as a taxpayer. So why does this happen? I actually was talking to my partner, and I was telling him we were having lunch, and I was telling him about the conversation that I had had, and he was like, how did that happen? Like, why wouldn't they both just come to you? And it happens a lot of times because maybe you have an accountant that you have do your taxes every year. You've been with them for years, you love them, you go and you have your taxes done with them. And then you get married. You meet somebody, whatever, you start dating, the whole thing, you know how marriage works. So you get married, and then that person maybe has an accountant that they've been using for years. And so now you have two accountants that you love using, and you will maybe go separately. Hi, Dave. Nice to see you, virtually see you. Tell your wife hello as well. So in this particular case, the person, my client, I'll say my client she came to be my client as a business client. And so as part of her monthly package, we negotiated that she would have her personal taxes done with me as well, because it's all kind of part of the same picture. And her husband, they just got married this year, and they had been single, like living apart, or they had not been common law before they got married. And so this was the first year that they were filing together, and her husband has an accountant that he's been going to for years, and so went to his accountant to have his taxes done. And so now we're doing two halves of one whole, in a sense. They're both filing their own individual tax returns, but there are pieces that interact with each other. So how do you navigate that? So for example, the minimum thing that you need to have on each other's taxes is the net income of the spouse. And you need to have that. It's sort of like a note on the other person's tax return, and it affects household income, and household income is used to calculate various benefits, HST, GST, HST credit, if you have kids and child benefit, that kind of thing. So having an accurate household number is important. And there are some other things though so I guess that number isn't really impacted by the other's taxes, but you definitely have to be aware of it and be able to like swap information there. But the conversation that I had today was about some of the pieces that actually interact with each other, because only one spouse can claim it, for example. So things like donations, although both spouses could claim their own donations, it's worth it to claim all donations on one tax return, because the first $200 you only get 15% of the charitable donation, but after that it's 29%. So that's a significant increase. And so you don't want the $200 first $200 on both tax returns. It's worth it to just have it on one, and you get an overall bigger return for that. Another one is a climate action incentive that's pretty new, but in Canada, you can only claim it on one tax return. So if you didn't talk to each other, so if the accountants didn't talk to each other, or the clients, the taxpayers, didn't let their accountants know that this was happening, then you might accidentally claim it on both tax returns, which is not good, because then you'll have to pay it back. And I think it's about $300 or so, $350 per person in the household. So that could be significant. Some of the other things that I was thinking about, one of them was a client, she had a T5. They had a T5 as a joint T5, so they have joint investments. and so they were issued a T-slip that was in both of their names. So how do you split that, right? So you have some options there in terms of who's going to take the income, and you just have to make sure that you coordinate with the other accountant so that the whole thing is accounted for, that you capture the whole thing, but that you don't take in too much income, because that's not good either. What are some of the other ones that I was thinking about? Donations. Childcare expenses, you want to make sure go on the lower income earner tax return. So you want to know, I mean, you would find that out when you did net income, but you would definitely want to know which return those need to go on. So it's important to coordinate. This is definitely not an exhaustive list of all the things that impact each other's tax returns, but it's definitely, there are things to be aware of. So if you and your spouse have two different accountants doing your personal taxes, it's absolutely doable. It's not a problem at all. But just make sure that the accountants are able to either communicate with each other, or that you are providing the information on both sides to both accountants. So ask your accountant, just say, hey, my partner's being done by somebody else. So what is it you need from them to be able to do my return, and what decisions need to be made to optimize our return as a household, our returns, plural, as a household, because ultimately when you're married, you share everything anyway. So even if, you know, the climate action incentive goes on your partner, so then you end up paying a little bit more tax overall. If it's less tax, then it's worth it. So just coordinating is important. If you have any questions about that, I would love to answer them for you. You can leave them in the comments. Oh, speaking of comments, that's so nice. Thanks, Dave. I'm glad you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer them. I'm happy to let you know the best way to coordinate with your accountants is. I mean, obviously it's personal choice in terms of logistics, but just the kind of information that you're going to need from the other accountant. Let me know in the comments what your questions are, and I'll answer them for you. I hope you have an excellent rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow.